Candle Annabelle, Part 1. It all began in the summer of 1970. The air was thick and warm, filled with the scent of rain-soaked streets and fresh-cut grass. Donna, a 28-year-old nursing student, had just moved into a small apartment she shared with her best friend, Angie. Life was ordinary, predictable, the kind of peaceful routine you never realize you'll miss until it's gone. Donna's mother, a kind-hearted woman who loved antiques, wanted to give her daughter something special for her birthday. One afternoon, she walked into a small second-hand store and spotted a large, raggedy-looking doll sitting in the corner. Its button eyes, red yarn hair, and faintly smiling face gave it a strange charm. The shopkeeper said it was a Raggedy Ann doll from the 1950s, nothing unusual. Donna's mother bought it immediately, thinking it would make a sweet decoration for her daughter's new apartment. When Donna unwrapped the gift that evening, she smiled. The doll was old but comforting in some strange way. "She's cute," Angie said, laughing as she brushed some dust off the doll's fabric dress. Donna placed it gently on her bed, thinking nothing of it. But that night, when the two friends turned off the lights and went to bed, something in the air felt off. The room seemed colder, the silence heavier. For the first few days, everything was normal. The doll sat quietly on the bed, a harmless decoration. But soon, small things began to change. Donna would leave the doll sitting upright in her room before going to class, only to come home and find it in a different position. Sometimes it was lying face down. Other times it was leaning against the wall. Once, it was sitting on the couch in the living room, even though Donna swore she had left it in her bedroom. At first, she laughed it off. "You must be moving it," she told Angie. But Angie shook her head, pale and serious. "I thought you were doing it." They both laughed nervously, brushing away the unease. Maybe one of them had forgotten. Maybe it was the building settling or a draft moving things around. But deep down, neither of them believed that. Then, the notes started to appear. Small pieces of parchment, old and yellowed, began showing up around the apartment. Each one was scribbled with a childlike handwriting, words like "Help ME" or "Help LOU" written in pencil. The strange part, neither Donna nor Angie owned parchment paper. They didn't even know where it could have come from. It wasn't until their friend Lou, a close friend of Donna, who often visited, began having disturbing dreams that the fear really took hold. Lou confessed one morning that he'd dreamt of the doll crawling up his leg, slowly moving toward his chest, trying to strangle him. Donna laughed nervously at first, but Lou's face was pale. His voice shook when he spoke. "I'm serious, Donna. That thing isn't right." Days passed, and the sense of dread grew. Donna began finding small drops of what looked like blood on the back of the doll's hands and chest. There was no explanation, no cuts, no leaks, no reason. She and Angie decided it was time to call for help. They contacted a local medium, hoping for answers. During the seance, the medium closed her eyes and began to speak in a trembling voice. She said the spirit of a little girl named Annabelle Higgins inhabited the doll. Annabelle had died tragically in a field near where the apartment building now stood. She was lonely. She wanted to be loved. Donna, her heart aching with sympathy, agreed to let the spirit stay in the doll and feel safe in their home. It was a decision she would regret for the rest of her life. From that moment, things escalated quickly. The noises began, faint rustling sounds at night, whispers that seemed to come from the doll's direction. The apartment's temperature dropped inexplicably. One night, Donna woke up to find the doll sitting at the foot of her bed, staring directly at her. She froze, her heart pounding so hard it hurt. The room was thick with silence, the kind of silence that presses on your ears and makes you want to scream. She turned on the light. The doll didn't move. Its face was still smiling, as always, but something about that stitched smile felt different now, cruel, almost mocking. The next morning, Lou came over again. He told Donna he couldn't sleep the night before. He felt something watching him, something evil. Donna tried to stay calm, but Angie confessed that she'd been hearing tapping sounds from Donna's room, rhythmic, like footsteps. That night, Lou decided to stay at the apartment. He didn't believe in ghosts, but he wanted to prove to them that it was all in their heads. Late into the night, he heard rustling again. Thinking someone had broken in, he crept toward Donna's room. The door was half open. Moonlight poured across the floor, illuminating the doll, sitting motionless in the corner. Lou stepped closer. The room smelled faintly of metal and something rotten. As he approached, the doll seemed to tilt its head ever so slightly. Lou froze. His heart thundered in his chest. He blinked, and the doll was suddenly at his feet, or maybe it had always been there. He couldn't tell. A searing pain shot through his chest. He gasped and looked down to find 3 long, claw-like scratches across his skin. They bled but healed within hours, a scar that left no rational explanation. That was the moment they knew this wasn't the spirit of a lonely little girl. They called the Catholic Church, desperate for help. The priest they spoke with, Father Hegan, listened quietly and then said something that chilled them to the bone. "What you're dealing with isn't a human spirit. It's something far darker. You've invited it in." He contacted 2 renowned paranormal investigators, Ed and Lorraine Warren. The Warrens had dealt with many strange cases, but even they were cautious when they heard the name Annabelle. Lorraine, a gifted clairvoyant, said immediately, "It's not the doll that's haunted. It's manipulating the doll. It wants to deceive." When the Warrens arrived, they could feel the darkness in the air before even entering the apartment. Ed described it later as walking into a wall of evil. Lorraine said she felt a presence, cold, hateful, intelligent. The doll sat innocently on the couch, its head slightly turned toward them, as if watching. Annabelle Part 2. The moment Ed and Lorraine Warren stepped inside Donna's apartment, the atmosphere shifted. Lorraine later described it as if the walls themselves were breathing with darkness. The air was heavy, thick, suffocating. Ed immediately sensed something malignant, not just a spirit, but a presence that fed on fear. Donna sat on the edge of the couch, her hands trembling. The doll rested beside her, slumped over slightly, its head tilted to one side. It almost looked alive. Lorraine's eyes locked on it instantly. "That's not a child's spirit," she whispered. "That's something pretending to be one." Ed began asking questions, calmly but firmly. "When did the activity start? What exactly have you seen?" Donna and Angie told them everything, the movements, the notes, the blood, and Lou's scratches. Ed nodded slowly, taking notes. Then he looked up and said, "You made a grave mistake when you gave it permission to stay. You invited it, that's all it needed." Lorraine walked closer to the doll, standing just a few feet away. She said later that she could feel waves of energy pulsing from it, dark, intelligent, mocking energy. She closed her eyes, and what she saw made her stagger back. "It's not a little girl," she said in a trembling voice. "It's an inhuman spirit. It's using the doll as a vessel, a way to get closer to people, to gain their trust. But its goal is possession." Donna's face went pale. Angie covered her mouth. Lou just stared at the doll with hatred and fear. Ed explained that demonic entities often begin by attaching themselves to objects, then gradually influencing the environment. They seek to create confusion, fear, and emotional weakness, and once they've gained enough control, they move to the human host. "The doll isn't possessed," Ed said, his tone calm but grave. "It's manipulated. There's a difference. The spirit doesn't live inside it, it controls it, moves it, uses it to make you believe it's harmless. But it's not." That night, the Warrens performed their first investigation. They recorded sounds, took photographs, and set holy relics around the apartment. Lorraine said she could sense the entity moving, shifting through the rooms, trying to hide. The temperature dropped to near freezing. The crucifix on the wall trembled slightly, though no wind was blowing. Suddenly, the doll fell forward on its own. A low growl echoed through the apartment, guttural, animalistic, not human. Donna screamed. Lorraine prayed under her breath. Ed, holding a vial of holy water, shouted, "In the name of Jesus Christ, leave this place." The noise stopped. The air lightened slightly, but they all knew it wasn't over. The next morning, the Warrens advised Donna and Angie to allow a full exorcism of the apartment. A Catholic priest, Father Cook, agreed to perform it. He arrived with his Bible and a small silver crucifix. As he read from the rite of exorcism, the lights flickered. The doll seemed to vibrate slightly, its fabric hands twitching. Lorraine could feel the presence resisting, clinging to the space, refusing to let go. When it was over, Father Cook told them, You are no longer safe with this object in your home. Ed agreed. It needs to be removed. We'll take it with us. Donna didn't argue. She just wanted it gone. So that afternoon, the Warrens placed the doll inside the back seat of their car. Lorraine refused to sit near it. Keep the rosary close, she told Ed. It's not happy. They started driving back toward their home in Monroe, Connecticut, where they kept a room full of haunted artifacts, items from past cases. But the trip was anything but peaceful. As they drove along a quiet stretch of road, the car engine sputtered and died. Ed guided it to the shoulder and tried to restart it, but it wouldn't respond. Then, without warning, the steering wheel locked. The car veered violently to the left, nearly hitting oncoming traffic. Ed slammed on the brakes and shouted a prayer out loud. The car came to a screeching stop. The engine started again as if nothing had happened. Lorraine clutched the rosary and said, "It's the doll. It's trying to kill us." For the rest of the drive, Ed periodically sprinkled holy water on the doll, repeating prayers of protection. Every time he did, the car jolted, as though the entity was reacting in anger. When they finally reached home, they both felt an immense wave of relief. But they knew this wasn't the end, it was just containment. At their house, the Warrens placed Annabelle in Ed's office. For the next few days, nothing happened. But then, strange noises began again, footsteps when no one was home, faint laughter from the hall, the doll appearing in different rooms. Lorraine insisted they needed to confine it permanently. So Ed built a special wooden case, lined with glass and blessed by Father Cook. On the front, he placed a small sign that read, "Warning, positively do not open." Inside the case, Annabelle sat quietly, her head slightly tilted, her permanent smile frozen in place. The Warrens believed the case would prevent the entity from moving freely, but they still blessed it regularly and never touched it again without prayer. Over the years, many people came to see Annabelle, curious visitors, skeptics, thrill-seekers. Some mocked the doll, laughing at the stories. Ed would always warn them, "Do not touch the glass, do not provoke it." But not everyone listened. One afternoon, a young couple visited the Warrens' occult museum. The man in his 20s laughed at the doll. "This thing's supposed to be haunted," he said, tapping on the glass. Ed immediately scolded him. "Son, I'm warning you, don't disrespect it." The young man shrugged it off. On their way home, he lost control of his motorcycle and crashed into a tree. He was killed instantly. His girlfriend survived but spent months in the hospital. She told the Warrens later, "He was laughing about Annabelle just seconds before it happened." Lorraine often said that people misunderstood what Annabelle really was. "It's not about the doll," she explained in interviews. "It's about the inhuman spirit attached to it. It's an agent of darkness, a conduit for something that hates humanity." As the years passed, Annabelle became one of the most infamous artifacts in the Warrens' collection. Reporters and documentary crews visited often, but even they described feeling uneasy around it. Some claimed their cameras malfunctioned or batteries drained instantly when they filmed it. Others said they felt like someone was standing right behind them, watching. Lorraine, who lived long after Ed's passing, always kept the room locked and blessed. She said that whenever she prayed near Annabelle, she could feel the entity still there, still awake, still waiting. Candle Annabelle, Part 3. Years went by, and the stories surrounding Annabelle only grew darker. The Warrens' Occult Museum in Monroe became a strange mixture of fascination and fear. People from all over the world came to see the doll locked behind its glass case, sitting there so quietly, too quietly. The Warrens continued their work, helping families tormented by supernatural entities. But no matter how many haunted houses they cleansed, Annabelle remained the one case that lingered in their minds. She was always there, silent, motionless, yet radiating a kind of energy that felt alive. Lorraine once said during a lecture, "There's something different about Annabelle. Most spirits eventually fade when you confront them. This one doesn't fade, it waits." Over the decades, priests from the local diocese would visit the museum to perform blessings. Father Jason, one of the younger priests who worked closely with the Warrens, once admitted that he could feel pressure in his chest every time he approached the case. "It's like standing in front of something that hates you," he said quietly. The museum itself was filled with other cursed items: mirrors, jewelry, paintings, even a shadow figure sealed in a glass jar. But visitors always said the same thing: the doll's case was different. People claimed that the eyes seemed to follow them as they moved, that the smile appeared wider under certain lighting, and that they could sense something breathing in the room. Ed always kept holy water and blessed oil nearby. "You never know when it'll try again," he would say. One evening, a delivery man arrived at the Warrens' home to drop off a package. He was new and had no idea what the museum really was. Lorraine led him through the corridor. The man's eyes fell on Annabelle's case, and he chuckled. "That thing looks creepy," he said. He reached out, intending to knock lightly on the glass, a playful gesture. Before his hand made contact, the lights flickered. The man froze. Lorraine grabbed his wrist. "Don't," she said sharply. Her tone was so serious that he immediately stepped back. "Never touch the glass," she whispered. "Not even as a joke." Later that night, she said she could hear faint scratching sounds from inside the case, as though something small or someone was trying to get out. Over the years, the Warrens' museum became more of a legend than a tourist attraction. People began to tell stories of seeing Annabelle move inside her case, her head turning ever so slightly, or the glass fogging from the inside as if someone had breathed on it. After Ed's passing in 2006, Lorraine continued to care for the museum. She would perform prayers daily and kept the rooms sealed except during special visits. She often told visitors, "Annabelle doesn't like being ignored." In 2017, the world was reminded of her again when movies about the doll's story, Annabelle, Annabelle, Creation and Annabelle Comes Home, became global hits. But Lorraine always emphasized that Hollywood only captured a small fraction of the truth. "The movies make her look like a porcelain doll," she said in one interview. "But in reality, she's just an ordinary Raggedy Ann. And maybe that's what makes it even worse, evil hiding behind innocence." That same year, strange rumors began to circulate online. Some claimed that Annabelle had escaped from the museum. Social media exploded with panic. People shared videos and memes saying that the doll was missing, wandering the world again. The truth, however, was simpler. She was still there, behind the glass, where she'd always been. But even Lorraine admitted that sometimes the case itself seemed different. The glass occasionally fogged up on its own, and the wood frame would creak, even when the air was still. "It's like she's restless," Lorraine whispered to a visiting priest. "Like she knows the world is talking about her again." In 2019, before Lorraine passed away, she arranged for the museum's artifacts, including Annabelle, to be safeguarded by her son-in-law, Tony Spira. Tony had worked with the Warrens for years and knew the weight of their responsibility. When he took over, he promised to keep the same rules: the blessings, the sealed case, the warnings. Today, the museum remains closed to the general public, but Annabelle still sits in her case, untouched, unchanged, and, according to Tony, still active. Tony has spoken publicly about incidents even he can't explain. Once, while filming a short video for a lecture, he noticed the camera freezing every time he focused on Annabelle's face. "It's like she didn't want to be recorded," he said. Another time, he and a priest were in the room when they both heard 3 distinct knocks coming from inside the case. When they opened the recording later, the sound wasn't there. People often ask Tony if he's ever afraid. He always answers the same way. "You don't have to be afraid, you just have to respect it. The moment you stop respecting it, that's when things happen." And things have happened. Visitors who came to see the doll, even when the museum was closed, often claimed to experience misfortune shortly after. One man said his car broke down twice on the same day after he took a photo near the case. Another woman swore that she saw the doll's head turn slightly toward her just before her camera battery died. Skeptics argue that it's all coincidence, that the power of suggestion makes people imagine things that aren't real. But those who have stood in front of Annabelle's case say otherwise. They describe an unmistakable sense of being watched, of something ancient and intelligent lurking just beyond sight. Priests who have blessed the case say they can feel a presence even through the glass. One priest, after sprinkling holy water, fainted suddenly, claiming he felt a cold hand on his shoulder. When he woke, he refused to ever enter the museum again. Even now, decades after the first incident, Annabelle's story continues to haunt people. She has become more than just a haunted doll. She's a symbol, a warning. A reminder that evil doesn't always appear as horns and fire. Sometimes it wears a smile. Sometimes it sits quietly, waiting for someone to believe in it again. The Warrens always believed that objects can become vessels, conduits for dark energy when touched by tragedy, ritual, or invitation. Annabelle was the perfect example. An ordinary toy turned into a prison for something far beyond human understanding. If you ever find yourself laughing at such stories, or telling yourself ghosts aren't real, remember this. The people who laughed at Annabelle didn't always walk away unharmed. Some people say that late at night, when the museum is silent, a faint tapping can still be heard from the glass. Others say that the temperature drops suddenly near her case. Tony says it's just the house settling, but even he doesn't stay alone in that room for long. Maybe it's superstition, maybe it's fear, or maybe, just maybe, Annabelle is still waiting. Waiting for someone to open the case. Waiting for someone to call her name. Waiting to be loved again, the way Donna once did, before everything went wrong. The legend of Annabelle is not about a doll, but about trust misplaced, kindness twisted, and evil disguised as innocence. It's about the unseen world that exists just beside our own, the one that watches, listens, and waits. So the next time you see an old doll staring at you from across a room, remember this story. Because even though Annabelle sits behind glass, sealed and blessed, the entity that once controlled her, the force that deceived and tormented, is not gone. It's only silent, for now. And silence, as the Warrens would say, is not peace. It's the sound of something biding its time,